I'm Chris Lee of Southeastern14.com, joined by Blake Lovell, also of Southeastern14.com. We're here to rank our best defensive players in the SEC after the bowls and playoff season. And my goodness, Blake, this was impossible to pick. The thing I'm confident of is that I got some people wrong, that I got some order wrong. And if you have hate mail, what is your address to send that to?
Listen, you're going to make a couple fan bases very happy. Now the order, I don't know, you may get a bit of response here, but if there's anyone arguing about two of these teams in particular having more than anyone else on here, I would like to refer you to the national championship game that was played here not too long ago. But yes, you can send the hate mail to chrislee@gmail.com, which is not
Right.
actually your email. So if you send that to chrislee@gmail.com, I can't guarantee you who you're going to get in touch with on that. So
Yeah, that could be interesting. Well, in all seriousness, this was
it's
almost
probably harder
impossible.
than doing offense, isn't it? Like defense is
It
probably harder
is
than offense.
because on
Yeah.
offense, there's stuff that you can quantify, and I look at Pro Football Focus rankings. I watch games every Saturday and watch the bowl games, the playoffs, all those things. Look at stats, read what people write, take all that in consideration, but there's a lot of really good, if not great, players left out. I will give you the high honorable mention. Damone Clark, who led the league in tackles, didn't grade really well on Pro Football Focus. And Neil Farrell of LSU, Alontae Taylor, the corner at Tennessee that had a great year. Martin Emerson, a corner at State, had a good year, really steady. I think it's overshadowed by his teammate. Zach Carter, Brenton Cox at Florida had nice years. Emmanuel Forbes at State, that's the other corner. He had a good year. Michael Clemens at A&M. Monteric Brown at Arkansas led the league in interceptions, or tied for it. Those are all guys that got considered. And then, frankly, a couple other dozen guys, too. I mean, name any Georgia player that wasn't in here. But let's get right into it. Might surprise people. I've got a couple of Gamecocks
I was
at
gonna say,
13 and
you got
14.
two Gamecocks at 14 and 13, huh? Those are starting off your list. What about Shane Beamer, man? He's got two players on this list. So
Well, and what about Shane Beamer? Because this defense gave up 36 points a game a year ago and was awful.
right.
And so you can't, I don't think, and I had him off the list most of the year, and he didn't rate well on Pro Football Focus, but Jalen Foster at South Carolina, he tied for the league lead with 5 interceptions, and then he forced 2 fumbles. That's more turnovers than anybody forced in the league, and I think that's pretty strong. Yes, he did give up some things in coverage, some big plays, but when you create turnovers in over half your games, that's pretty loud. And Kingsley Enagbare, his teammate on the line, who sat out the bowl game, and that probably hurt him a little bit in the ratings, didn't produce a lot statistically, but Pro Football Focus loved him, really loved him as a pass rusher. And he's a first rounder. And this is the part where I'm really going to make people angry. I only had one Aggie on the list. And again, I don't know that that's right. That's the one thing that I look at, and I don't know if that's the right thing, and he didn't even rate the best on his team by Pro Football Focus by a long shot. But DeMarvin Leal was a guy that people talked about before the season. They talked about him after the season. He's probably going to go in the first round this spring.
Well, and I know you have some familiarity, and obviously we do, with a couple guys that are coached by a certain guy that you have familiarity with in terms of 11 through 9 here. A couple Auburn guys there, of course, Derek Mason now there as the defensive coordinator, plus a really fun to watch Kentucky guy there, number 10.
Yeah, and we skipped Darien Kendrick. That's the first of the Georgia guys that we're listing. And by the way, a couple other Georgia guys, the couple other Georgia guys that I really considered and didn't put in were Channing Tyndall and Jalen Carter. I forgot to mention them, but they were, could have had them in there, didn't. You've only got room for so much. But Darien Kendrick at 11 led Georgia with 4 picks. But then the guys you're talking about, Josh Paschal at Kentucky, who rated really well in Pro Football Focus. He's going to get drafted in April and sat out the bowl game, I guess, to protect himself there. But Roger Mccrary at Auburn at 9, just so consistent for 3 years. I don't think that his name really popped nationally or within the league, but his last 3 seasons, he's been so steady for them. And he's a guy that's going to be probably a first-round pick. I don't know that he's a shutdown corner, but he's maybe a really good number 2 for some NFL team, and just, again, was so good throughout the course of his career. Okay, now we get...
Spoiler alert, there's a lot of Alabama and Georgia coming.
There's a lot of red coming up. We'll start with Jordan Battle at Alabama, who actually graded at Pro Football Focus better than Will Anderson. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I do take that seriously. He had 3 picks. 2 of them came back for touchdowns, and frankly, teams didn't do much throwing on him. And now we got 4 Georgia players, and I will go from 7 down. Nolan Smith, the edge guy, Jordan Davis, Devontae Wyatt, and Lewis Seen being 4. God help you if you try to figure out who had the better year of any of those guys. Again, I don't know that I'm right. Jordan Davis is going to be the one that at 6 people are going to be unhappy with, but he played 37% of his team snaps. And I just don't know, although granted he was getting double and triple teamed while he was in there, and that requires a good bit of energy. I just had a hard time with all the great defenders in this league putting him much higher than that. Might be wrong, but to me, playing time and being on the field matters, and they had the luxury of spelling him and resting him because of the other guys. I thought Nolan Smith was tremendous in the title game. Devontae Wyatt was too, and I think it might have been Kirk Herbstreit that brought it up, that said that, Davis got the attention, but Wyatt may have been the better defender. And frankly, it looked like that to me in the title game. I don't like to go on one thing, but Devontae Wyatt was an incredible player for them. Lewis Seen, the MVP of the title game. Safety, didn't put up huge numbers, did get 9 pass breakups, but man, he can really hit you. I just thought he had a tremendous year, graded well at Pro Football Focus all year. I don't think anybody was expecting Ole Miss guy at 3, but we got one.
We can welcome back the Oxford people now.
That's right. And look, Sam Williams arguably was as valuable to his team as any player in the league. I think that the other guy in that discussion is probably Matt Corral on offense. And certainly at Alabama, you take Will Anderson, or their Heisman Trophy winning quarterback who had a nice season too. He was a pretty good player. He ended up number 1 on our rankings. Those guys might have been, I'd say, if you had the discussion of the most irreplaceable players in the league, which is partly how good are you and partly is what can your team do to replace you if you're not there. I think Sam Williams was on that list, had a tremendous year, 16 tackles for loss. I think that was second in the league behind Anderson. 12.5 sacks, I think that was also second. That kid was just a force from them from start to finish. And then we get to 1 and 2. I think this would be most people's 1 and 2. Nekobi Dean of Georgia, and of course Will Anderson, our player of the year. I think he would have been most people's player of the year. Anderson's 34.5 stops for loss. I don't know that I've ever heard of that. 17.5 sacks, 9 hurries, 3 breakups. I don't think anybody would have issue with their 1 and 2, but man, this was fun to put together. It was exhausting to put together, but it was fun.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know how you would have any other list other than 1 and 2. I don't know how you could put anyone else in that category. But hey, at least if you're upset about 1 being at 1 and 2 being at 2, then you're number 2. You got a national championship to your credit. So there you go. So.
You watch Georgia a lot.
Oh yeah.
How did I do on the order there?
No, I think that, like you said, I mean, you look at the 4 through 7. Like, how do you? Jordan Davis, you mentioned. I mean, it's just because I think when you see him on the field, like you said, it's just you're not there's no one else like him out there, and I think that's why you're going to really immediately just turn your focus to him and be like, my goodness, like there's no one else that it just can. It's incredible to watch him, but like you said, it also matters into comparing him to other people and how much he's utilized and how much he's out there and those kind of things, and so I get it, like it makes it hard. And again, you're picking straws between those guys in particular. I think from 4 to 7, having all those Georgia guys on there, but going back to the top too, like it's with Will Anderson. I mean, it's just you talk about a guy like you said. There's just he's someone else where it's like there's just sort of not a lot of comparisons that you can make to a guy like that and what he can do. So Yeah, it's it's an impressive list, isn't it? Like, I mean, that's the
Yeah.
thing is like our offensive list is impressive too, but my goodness, and this has kind of been the thing over the years, right? It was, more so back then. I think when we talked about the SEC maybe was as a whole defensively, it was just sort of we remember some of those games that were just so low scoring and stuff. But now you've kind of seen the innovation in the offenses and stuff. But like now, you just my goodness, you look at this defensive list, you're like, man, these guys are just they're so good.
We're leaving guys out that are going to be first
Oh
round
yeah,
picks that didn't make our top
right,
14. I mean,
yeah,
that's how good this league. And by the way, the one guy I didn't mention, probably my toughest omission was Aaron Mathis at Alabama, who played
yeah.
so well at times. It was between him and Foster. When Foster causes 7 turnovers, that's pretty loud. And Mathis had probably more help around him. I know this wasn't the typical Alabama defense. I left out Georgia's leading tackler, Channing Tyndall. I mean, when you
Listen,
watch them, it's so hard to tell. They're all so good, it's hard to tell who drives what. And it's one of these things that I'm just like, I have no confidence that I got this right, because that Georgia defense was the most stacked bunch of players I have seen in a long, long time.
I have to become the Southeastern 32 just for the defensive list each year. We're
Just
going to
for
put
Georgia.
that caveat in. Yeah, just for Georgia. And we can do the Southeastern 14 just for Georgia, right? Like, we put some backups in. Same with Alabama. We can make an entire list off of those two. So yeah, it's difficult, but like you said, we do this out of, just the fun of being able to try to put a list like this together. And there's always going to be someone that you feel like is left out, but at the end of the day, you look at 1 through 14, you're like,
Yeah.
those guys are good. So, yeah.
Well, I'll tell you this. Again, I'm positive I got some of it wrong, but I put a lot of time into this. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know, hundreds of hours into watching and looking up stats and God knows what else, reading things. So anyway, confident I got it wrong. Confident I tried really hard with it too, and tried not to leave any stone unturned.
Yeah.
All right, we've got plenty of basketball coverage at southeastern14.com. If you're watching this, please subscribe. That helps us out. Anyway, thanks for watching. Be sure to stick with us during football and baseball season for our coverage there, and we'll see you again very soon.